Hello and welcome to the Strategies for Innovative Development case study video series. In these short videos, I share examples of how I have been able to work with leaders and their teams to build more innovative organisation cultures. I demonstrate how it's possible to use the Strategies for Innovative Development, or SID tool, to diagnose core issues, frame appropriate challenge questions, generate original ideas, and produce practical action plans for innovative change. I hope you enjoy the series. And I thought it might be interesting for you to hear from Andrew a little bit more about the work that we do through our consulting projects, because I think this sort of helps to give you a real life case study of what people experience in the workplace and how you can use that experience to really make a difference and to change the way that people do things in the workplace. So I thought I'd ask you, Andrew, to share a particular example, which is a logistics company that you've worked with for many years, and you ran a number of simulations with them like you did with the unit of studies team last week. And then you helped them to reflect on the experiences and you helped them to learn from them and then to change the ways they did work going forward. So could you tell us a little bit about the company first and what the particular challenges were for the company?
I don't want to give away the punchline at the end, but they are a logistics company shipping containers like FedEx and DHL. And as we went through the creative problem solving issues, we discovered that one of their issues is they had many empty containers going out. So it's a bit like a hotel having an empty room. We get to 9 o'clock at night and no one's booked the room. It's like ice cream. You can't then keep that room for the next night. And so if you can imagine, if a container goes out, has to go out on a particular date. It doesn't matter whether it's full or empty, it's booked to go out on the ship. So if it's empty or even half empty, that's very expensive. There's obviously a break-even point from when they are able to do it. And so that's the challenge that any of the industries have, that they have to get containers from one place to another as full as possible, because anything that's empty is going to cost them money.
So tell us a little bit about, you actually used the SID model with this organisation. So tell us about the design thinking process that you went through with them.
Well, we took them through the inquire stage to find out what their problems were. And that was, this was at the end of a 2-day workshop. I had the CEO on my team. Luckily, we got such a good solution. He booked us for another 20 programs because he went, wow. Okay, he said, I can't believe we've been dealing with this issue for the last 4 or 5 years. And we just solved it in 90 minutes. I said, it wasn't 90 minutes, it was 2 days. So after we went through the SID model, we went into the inquire stage. And I said, look, what are some of your biggest issues? And they said, well, the biggest issue is we've got these containers going out empty. So that was the inquire stage. When we got into the explore stage, we looked at lots of different ideas of how to fill them up at the last minute. Can we offer cheap prices to people? And we realized that airlines, low-cost airlines, are really good at filling up seats. And it's the same sort of thing. I've flown back from Phuket. Not only did they fill up all the seats on the plane, but Silk Air offered, once I got on the plane, they said for $15 I can actually have a spare seat next to me. Now the funny thing is the spare seat was probably already spare, but they charged me for it. $15, I thought, yeah, why not? So even as I was on the plane, they were still selling me empty space. And they can do that because today's world is digital and it's very, very easy to do it. So we started looking at the airline industry, realizing that because of digital apps and everything, that at the last minute, and it's basically called yield management. It's why you can get a cheap flight at the last minute. But there's a risk, because if the flights are all full, you're going to be paying either very cheap or you're going to be paying published rates. So what we realized in the container industry is the same thing happens. That last couple of days before a container's full, why don't they offer a killer price, a discount price, that people can take the risk, they can leave it, and if the container's full, that'll cost them a lot of money. But if the container's empty, they can ship their products on cheaper. And so by using the example from the airline industry, which is yield management of upselling stuff at the last minute, the container company realized that they could do the same thing. And as a result of that, they're now selling a lot more full containers. Now, one of the challenges was people said, but if they're paying a cheap price, then they won't pay the full price. Well, that's the same with airlines. We risk, if we leave that flight to the last minute, either we're going to get a cheap price or it's full. So if it's really, really important to us, we will pay the price in advance. So that's why business class airlines are so expensive, because they know that you have to go out. So it's a risk, but the risk is it means that the airlines, the hotels, and now the logistics company are sending out their planes, their hotels, and their shipping containers full, because the most expensive part of that container is the empty part of it. And they borrowed the idea from airlines and hotels.
Okay, so thanks. Yeah, that sort of steps through the process that you can go through to get to that creative solution that's also really practical. And you already mentioned that the CEO recognised the value of it, and then he wanted to roll it out, to all employees across Asia Pacific. And so what was the sort of follow-up and the evaluation process that led to the success of this program and to really changing the culture in the organisation so that everybody was able to start thinking creatively when they came across a problem, so they all had this capability?
Well, the good news is the CEO was on my team for this executive team, and he just, as I said, he just went, wow. He said they've been trying to solve this problem for years and they never thought about airlines. And that's the creative process, to be able to come up, to go through these steps one at a time and make sure that they're all used independently of each other. And when he realized how quickly the solutions can be found when you go through a model like this, he thought, well, if that's his team, what sort of things can other teams come up with? So within a day, he booked us, as I said, for multiple workshops throughout Asia Pacific to run this with his other teams. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to get everyone speaking the same language. So if they did have a difficult problem, the beauty of this SID model is it can just be done in 7 minutes. The danger of some of these really intensive design thinking courses run by some of the companies out of America is they're very good, but they're very complicated and they take a long time to do, and they take a dedicated team, and they can take months. But this guy realized that within 7 minutes, you can identify the problem, brainstorm the solutions, see what's going to work and pull it all together and then apply it. And he just wanted everyone in the company to be thinking through those 4 stages every time they come up with a problem. And that's the job of the leader, not to just try and solve the problem for the client, but to actually say, hey, let's go through these 4 stages and see if we can come up with it.
So following this rollout through the whole organisation, it was over a number of years. Then they evaluated early on to see the impact of the program. Then they evaluated further down the track to see, was the culture really changing and were people really behaving differently in the organisation? So they found that at all levels of the organisation, not just at the CEO level, not just at the manager level, but everybody was really starting to change the way they think. And that helped them then to plan next stages of development going forward. Anything else that you want to say about that?
Well, I think it's, as Gaia said, if just one person does it, that's great. But if a whole group of people speak the same language, then you've got a problem, chuck it into the model. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So you need to use this model as much as you can. I think Jay has given you the 1-page cheat sheet or the single canvas. Just have that and just use it every time you want to go through a problem, because the more you use it, the easier it gets. And then you're getting everyone to think about it over and over again. I know it sounds funny using a process for creative thinking, but that's the irony of it. It's not about being artistic. It's about using a set process to follow through steps at the right time to become creative.
And it's just ensuring that you are employing both the creative and the critical thinking skills, because we tend to, as that earlier video showed, we tend to switch to the favourite activity or the part of the brain that's most comfortable for us. And we're not being really diligent about ensuring that we're using both the creative and the critical thinking skills. So going through that process keeps that in mind. And just showing you, so we had a lot of evaluation, very extensive evaluation process that led to the implementation of some of those really amazing ideas that came out, as well as that idea of containers shipping containers